And we are back to, or more like for, our third and final webinar of the day. Our final webinar of the day is by Dr. Antonio Martinez Collazo, who holds a Ph.D. in physics from the American University at Washington, D.C. He joined the faculty of the University of Puerto Rico in 1991 and currently serves as a professor of physics. After 24 years of research in material physics, he has dedicated the last 10 years of the scientific of his career, to the scientific characterization of material cultural heritage. His current research project, besides the Oller Project, which he's going to be discussing today, include the identification of pigments in pre-Columbian ceramics from Puerto Rico, and the development of new techniques in conservation science. Thank you so much for being with us today, Dr. Martinez. Whenever you're ready, the floor is all yours.
Well, thank you for the introduction. Again, my name is Antonio Martinez. I'm so very happy to be here to share with you about our project in this wonderful occasion. Our presentation today is entitled as Project Oller website and information exchange medium about the oeuvre of the Puerto Rican painter Francisco Oller. And the title of the project, what is Oller Project or Project Oller? Well, the title of the project, the complete title is Oller Project, a scientific glance at the oeuvre of Francisco Oller for art history. And I'll tell you a little bit more about the project following the title, the suggestion of the title. But first of all, I would like to recognize the people that worked alongside with me in this project. There were 3 undergraduate students at the University of Puerto Rico Rio Piedras campus, which were involved in the project, and their contribution I would like to acknowledge. Patricia Navedo of the art history program, Loret Rivera also of the art history program, and Cristian Quiñones, which was a student at the physics undergraduate program at the University of Puerto Rico Rio Piedras campus. I think all of them are gone on to do graduate studies either in art science, material science, or conservation. Then I have had the honor of sharing and having contributed to this project, Dr. Teresa Tio, from the art history program, and Irene Esteves, who is the director of the University Ana Geméndez Cinturabo Museum. Also collaborated Dr. Johnny Lugo, from director of the Cultural Heritage Innovative Office in the Puerto Rico Science and Technology Trust. And very important to recognize Professor Carlos Corrada Bravo, who is from the computer science program and was the most important element because he was the one and his students who actually designed the website that we're going to share with you today. Okay, the brief outline of my talk today. First, we want to, as I mentioned before, we're going to go, as suggested by the title, we're going to talk about the project and why a scientific glance, why Francisco Oller, and why for art history. Then we're going to go into the methodology of the project. And then we're going to talk about the reasons why we decided to create this website. Then we're going to visit the website and a website overview. And finally, we'll have conclusions and acknowledgements. Well, why a scientific glance? Well, we have a number of analytical techniques that are available for the study of materials that have been applied, in this case, to the analysis, scientific investigation of the works of Francisco Oller. And there's of course, this oeuvre of Francisco Oller, of the painter, or in generic terms, any cultural heritage material. And then the analytical techniques and the cultural heritage material overlap and provide information that is important for art history, for art historians, and also for forensics in order to determine attribution of paintings or any other work of art or any other cultural heritage material for that matter. And but there's also important in this scientific approach to cultural heritage material. It is important to understand and this application of the analytical techniques is important to understand the role of the environmental factors that are very important for conservation purposes, because we can study, for example, degradation of the materials and establish degradation mechanisms and also establish conservation protocols. These analytical techniques, of course, are non-destructive or micro-destructive and portable. For our history, at the end of the title of the project, well, the purpose here that informs the activity of art historians is related to the establishment of the palette of the painter, of the artist in general, but in our case, Francisco Llera, painter. There's the identification of the preparation layer and characterization of preparation layer and supports, the presence of pentimenti, establish the presence of pentimenti, or the use of underdrawing or sketches and preliminary traces that also tell us something about the practices of the artist, and the presence of underlying images, as I mentioned before, and evidence of more than one hand in a particular work of art, painting. All of these can be established or are documented by the application of these scientific investigation technique of works of art. For conservation, it is important because just to adding to our approach, it is important because it identifies, we can identify earlier interventions and evaluate the losses or damage, the conservation state, the state status of the work of art. We can, as I mentioned, elucidate degradation mechanisms and develop conservation protocols for the particular work that is being studied. And for forensics, it is important. It is very useful to be able to document the provenance and authenticity of a particular work of art, and some of the things that can be established that can help in the establishment of documentation of the provenance and authenticity are detection of spurious or anachronic pigments that are not known to be used by the artist, or anachronic pigments that are not within the lifetime, for example, of the artist. The detection of practices alien to the artist, presence of pentimenti tells us something about the hand that was involved in creating the work of art, namely whether or not we know that the painter in the creative process used corrections in his painting, or maybe they're not known to be present, or for the artist not to use them. So either way, we can establish the presence of pentimenti, and that would inform the provenance and authenticity of the painting, and the detection of artificial aging treatments also, which would point out to false reproductions. Why Francisco Llera? Well, Francisco Llera is the first modern Puerto Rican painter, an artist that had international projection. Some of his works are among some of the most prestigious museums in the world. And he was part of the beginnings of the Impressionist movement, and along with his Caribbean fellow painter Pizarro, he was part of the very first Impressionists in France, Impressionist movement in France, along with Cézanne, Monet, etc. He was part of that crowd, and he is the first Puerto Rican painter to be of becoming established as a pillar of the first generation of Puerto Rican artists. And we had other artists in like Campeche in colonial times, but there were colonial times. So this is the first, considered the first Puerto Rican painter, and it's important in art history, Puerto Rican art history. Why in studying the work of Francisco Oller, there are a number of things that are interesting to look at, and we will be doing so as the project progresses. We want to establish whether they are geographically tied changes in his palette. He painted in Spain, in France, as I mentioned just a minute ago, and also in Puerto Rico. And it would be interesting to see if the palette changed geographically with these changes in his location. The relationship between Oller and other Impressionist artists' palettes and the development of a profile for Oller that would aid in establishment of authentication efforts, namely forensics. What pieces have been studied? We have studied 21 pieces, paintings of Francisco Oller, and which are here identified, and both from the collection from the collection of a number of museums and institutions here in Puerto Rico that I will mention in the credits. The analytical techniques that were used: X-ray fluorescence and XRF, and X-ray fluorescence, XRF, and fiber reflectance spectroscopy, FORCE. And these were used mainly to document and establish the pigment used in the paintings and materials, other materials in the painting, namely and most importantly, support materials and preparation layer materials, and multi-spectral imaging, which allows to determine the presence of on the drawings, and so as such establish the artist practices, and also allow for the determination of an assessment of the conservation state of the work of art. Here we have a fiber optic spectroscopy, and what is involved here? Well, we shine light on the superficial layer of the painting, and this light interacts with the painting and is the one that is responsible for the image that we see. We can analyze this visible light and in reflectance mode, right, which is what we take from the painting. And if we analyze the painting, this is very simple caricature or illustration of some extreme elements of the spectra, the reflection spectra, and how it is gathered or acquired. We have a spectrometer that collects the light, and then we can analyze the light in terms of intensity versus wavelength, and that can be used to provide almost a fingerprint of the pigment that is being studied. The equipment is composed of a reflectance probe, which has a number of fiber optic fibers, and light is incident and goes onto the area that is being sampled by a bunch of fibers, and then in the center the light is collected through the center fiber, is collected and taken to the spectrometer, a small spectrometer which is here, and then that is connected to a computer and produces the spectra. That's the probe and the data taking modality. Okay, we use also X-ray fluorescence, and again a little explanation of what is involved, because we have a very diverse audience. In this technique, we shine X-rays on the sample. These X-rays interact with the atoms, the atomic elements that constitute the painting, in the painting or in the pigment, and the atom, for example, the elements constituting the painting, interact with the light by the ejection of some electrons, and the process produces secondary X-rays that are characteristic of the atom which they originated from, and thus allow for the identification of the chemical composition, elemental composition of the pigment. The sample is probed or analyzed up to, depending on the matrix, on the order of maybe a few millimeters. And as such, this technique allows also for the analysis of the preparation layer, that is the underlayer behind the or below the pictorial layer. And this is an image of our spectrometer. And here is taking some data in one of the paintings studied in the project. Okay, we also have multi-spectral imaging, and in this case, infrared light is shined upon the sample, or ultraviolet light, which is not illustrated here. But for the infrared light interacts quickly with the pigments, which interact mostly with the visible light, and does penetrate into the preparation layer, for example, and allows at any interface would allow for the imaging of any underdrawings or pentimenti in the painting. And our setup is shown here, has an infrared camera, sensitive camera, and that is connected to the computer that gathers the images. Okay, why a website? And now we're going to the main title of our project, of the presentation. The website was inspired by the Cranach Digital Archive. Has a website at lucascranach.org, and there you can this website it's a collection, or represents a collection of many Lucas Cranach paintings that have been analyzed by an investigator through scientific techniques. And here there's an example of an image revealing underdrawings, and the website is open for contributions in a wiki format, variant of a wiki format that allows institutions to provide input that have Cranach paintings to provide their input and their results for other Cranach paintings. So that was the inspiration was laid there. But also this inspiration website, Cranach inspiration website, also was created as a vehicle for the art community to share the historical and scientific information about Oller, and in particular for our page, the palette and its practices, and it can be helpful among other issues in attribution problems, like for example this very recently this portrait of a lady in the Barbarian Institute of Arts that had been attributed for a long time to Goya was recently re-attributed, or they have recommended, suggested that should be attributed to Jose Campeche, a Puerto Rican artist. But there was in this case the existence, for example, of a website that would have documented Campeche's practices and palette through the scientific investigation results, such as the ones that we are using here, and we will be posted up here in our website. Such a website would have helped immensely and informed the work of the people in the Barbarians. So there is an instance of a very recent occasion in which such a website would have been helpful. Here we have the project website. It's available in 3 languages, English, Spanish, and French. And if you're interested, for example, in finding out about a particular painting and the data that we have collected, you can visit the gallery and pick one of the paintings that are listed. I'm going to take, for example, here the Paisaje de Puerto Rico, and when you click on the image corresponding to the painting, you can see force, XRF, and MSI. and each of these buttons will link to the data gathered from this particular painting. Let's pick force. Here we are. We have the areas where data was collected, force data was collected, and we can, if you click on this area here, which is the light blue, this is the spectra here for the light blue area, and it has some features that you can use to identify the painting. I can choose up here again, staying within the same painting. You can choose to look at the XRF data, and if we look at the same area, here we have the spectra, XRF spectra for the that same area in the light blue area, which we can point out, for example, to the presence of copper and nickel, the light blue and iron, and the light blue, the presence of zinc, which may be associated with making the blue a lighter color. The lead, for example, was present in all of the spectra and is associated with the use of lead white in the preparation layer. And the sulfur tells us something also about the preparation layer, that is some gesso in the layer. Okay, we can also go to the MSI, the spectral images, and here we can pick, for example, which image you want to see in the foreground. Here in the foreground is the visible, and here we have infrared in the back. What back means, okay, the tool, the examination tool, allows you will image within the circle that you're moving around in the painting, will allow you to image the infrared gathered image acquired. You can change the size of this of this circle, and I just point out here the presence of a palm tree in the infrared that can be visible here in the infrared. I hope that you can see it, and that is not present in the visible, and pointing to the presence of a pentinenti in this particular work of art. Okay, there are allowances here for adding historiography or of the particular work of art and results from art history investigations, and the methods provide a short description of the techniques used in the study, and what data is available here. And the contribute is a link that will very soon allow the user or visitor to the website to make their own contribution by downloading a template and permitting the uploading of the contribution in the correct format, so that it can be incorporated into the web page. So that's our website, and we're very happy with it. I now go back to my presentation. And finally, we have some conclusions. Well, we have performed XRF and force and multispectral imaging on the data of 21 paintings of Francisco Oller. A website is being developed, as you saw, and it's in beta phase, but it will soon be in its finished form to share these results. And the website will provide allowance for members of the art community to make their own contributions, encouraging academic exchanges. I'd like to acknowledge the Institutional Fund for Research of the University of Puerto Rico, FIDI for its name in Spanish, the Museum of Anthropology, History, Anthropology, and Art of the University of Puerto Rico, the deposit of the National Gallery of the Puerto Rican Institute of Culture, and NASA Ideas for funding, and my department. And in addition, also I would like to acknowledge the Museo de Arte de Ponce, which allows us to study two of the works in their collection. Here's my email. If you have any questions or any interest in contacting me, please do so. I look forward to any questions or interactions that have been sparked by this presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your presentation, Dr. Martinez. I thought that was fascinating. I find this type of techniques to be they're just really interesting to me. I have a few questions for you, but of course, we're gonna go first with our audience. So let's jump right into the live Q&A.